What is up, everybody? It is your favorite adaptive combat enthusiast and anime nerd, Matt Burton, the Saiyan Soldier, back with another episode. This one's going to be really fun for me because this is a guy I really admire, put in a lot. We've talked a little bit, and he's doing some big things that I really want to get into and be a part of. So I'm glad to have him on my show. Please welcome out of Gracie Baja in Pelham, Alabama, Mr. Matt Mckenzie. Matt, welcome on to the show, man.
Hey man, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, like I said, we've talked a little bit. So, but I want my listeners to learn more about you and uh more about your story. So, can you go into a little bit about what your story is as far as what your adaptation is and where it
Yeah.
came from and how you got into jujitsu and being a combat athlete?
Yeah. So I grew up with athletes in my family. And my dad was in the military. We had a little bit of a military background as well in my family with the U.S. Marine Corps and the Army. And so it was kind of instilled in me, uh, you know, things like, toughness and giving your all and, competing and stuff like that. So I found baseball as my first sport. My grandfather played baseball at a high level, and so it was something that was kind of a part of my life as a young kid. And then one day, um, I slid into second base, and there seemed to be an issue going on with me physically after that. And so later in that summer, um, I was around the age of 12 years old, and around that summer, um, they started to say, what's wrong with your leg? What's happening? You're walking funny. We thought maybe I had a fracture in my foot. But then in a roundabout, to make a long story short, roundabout way, through several brain testing, they found that, there was actually either it's a tumor or it's a stroke. They didn't really know because I was so young. And over the next few years of my adolescence, as my brain began to grow, began to lose coordination in my left arm, left leg. It kind of felt like a plague, just kind of going up from my ankle into my hand. And so the best definition for it for categories today is cerebral palsy in the left side. I don't really have the same motor functioning in my hand as I do in this hand. So, growing up, baseball was kind of taken away. So was football. I did 1 year of wrestling in high school. I had a coach that pushed me to not really care about differences and limitations. And so he pushed me to compete in that way. I fell in love with that. Never won a match, but definitely lots of heart was given and got given a courage award. That was pretty cool. And then, there's not really, or there wasn't really anything at the time in terms of like adaptive athlete sports in college. And so just kind of floated through college and but then I found marathon running. And because for the good thing for that for me was there was no first place, second place medal. It was just about your effort. And so I knew one thing, I wouldn't quit. And so I would run marathons, and I ran pretty much one in every southeastern state. And then I found jujitsu. I was watching a match on TV, and I always fell in love with the UFC early on, and specifically guys who would choke guys out or take their arms. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was a young kid, and so I was watching a match, and I said to a friend, "Yeah, I wish I could do that." And he said you can. You run marathons. And I thought, what? That's what's a wild thing to say that I can do that. And there was actually a spiritual small group that was going on, and a guy that was teaching it. He's my former professor at a gym called Lionheart. He had a small group, so I went to that because I thought that's probably gonna be the most polite way to get beat up. Is I went to guys who are spiritual. And so it drifted from doing like a drill type class into a sparring class. And then that led to me trying my first tournament, a local tournament, and a traditional non-adaptive tournament. And though I didn't win, very much was enjoying the moment. And I did two of those. And then my job at the time, I would travel, train, things like therapy and models. By trade, I'm a therapist. And so I was traveling around teaching mental health interventions, and I would always take my gi. I thought at the time it was a nice thing to do to spar with different people from different gyms. I found that to lower my anxiety when I was on the mat, in competition. And at one gym I was at in Knoxville, there was Professor Praven Lopes with Lucas Lepre Jiu-Jitsu. And after the class, he said to me, do you compete? And I said, yeah, I compete, but I don't really do that well in traditional tournaments because I have really only one side I'm fighting with, my right hand, my right leg. And he had told me about the grapple heart in New York and said, no, no, I meant like adaptive, para jiu-jitsu. And I never heard of that. And I went up to New York and competed in that and fell in love with the culture there. And since then, I've done SJJIF in a tournament in LA and twice in Texas. And then I've done the AJP in Texas. These are all para events. And I've done the World Games in 2022 here in Birmingham and
Nice.
had matches there. And then so that's how I fell in love with it and found it. And I keep doing that today.
That's awesome, man. And when you were telling your story about how you got started and how you fell into wrestling and how you saw me laugh, but I was laughing because my story is so very similar because I grew up a military, like my parents were both in the army, so I was kind of a military brat myself. So, and like you said, for you, baseball got taken away from you. I never got to start with anything like athletically. Like I did stuff at home, but like as far as organized wise, it didn't happen. But like my parents, like you said, you had a coach that pushed you to wrestle. My parents and my coach who was also military, I got with him and we basically started the wrestling team at my high school. And
Nice.
so I laugh because that's very similar to what I went through. And I never won a match either.
Hmm.
So I was laughing at the similar not laughing, but
Yeah.
realizing the similarities between our stories. And it's crazy how like you had a friend that said that you were talking about you ran marathons. I never thought about running a marathon. I could.
Yeah.
I would have to train forever, but
Yeah.
stamina wise, that'd be rough. But you had a friend that told you you could. Um,
Mhm.
when I was younger, I used to think that I could get rid of my cerebral palsy,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
when I went to a doctor at one point, and they were like, "You," I said, "I'm gonna beat it," blah blah blah, and they were like, "You are." They said, "But you can't get rid of it though. It's yours. You have to own it."
Yeah.
And at first, I
Yeah.
took a little bit about it, and then one of my best friends at the time, I came back to school like that next week, and we were at lunch, and I wasn't talking as much because I'm a very talkative person, especially with my people, and I wasn't talking as much, and I was just kind of bummed out. And he was like, "Hey, bro, what's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Well, I've been thinking. I thought I could get rid of this, blah blah blah." And he was like, "Man, don't worry about that. You're gonna do whatever you want to do anyway, so don't worry about it." And
Yeah.
then that kind of pushed, and I was like, you know what, you're right. And that kind of pushed me to remember, because my parents had been instilling that in me forever.
Hmm.
I mean, my dad. when I was about 6 years old. I was talking to him about sports and could I do sports, and he was like, he straight up said, Matthew, you can do whatever you want to do. You're just gonna have to work extra hard, and nobody's gonna feel sorry for you. And that wasn't him being, that wasn't him being an asshole. That was him being straight up with me like he always was.
Yeah.
So when my friend told me that, it kind of took me back to that moment and be like, you're right. I was like, you're right. Why am I worried about this? So fast forward to high school, me and my coach build the wrestling team up. Never won a match, but man, the moment it was, I got addicted to it. That's how I fell into jujitsu and
Yeah.
MMA too.
Yeah.
Man, you've competed a lot, man. I love to hear about like the adaptive community growing as far as jujitsu goes, and the culture is great. I love me and you know a lot of the same people within the adaptive community, and I love how well we all can get together and work together. As far as building the community goes, like me and you have talked about working on something that I'm about to set up, and we're in two totally different weight classes. So I was like, okay, let me figure this out. So I can't put you where I originally wanted to put you, but I'm gonna find somewhere to put you on
Yeah.
this event, like because I want you there because
Yeah.
I admire you so much. So
Appreciate
I
that.
love how opening the community is as far as working together, and that's a really smart idea to take your gi with you and go to these different gyms, especially to help with your anxiety because a lot of people don't talk about how bad gym anxiety is,
Yeah.
especially for adaptive athletes.
Yeah.
I go to a gym that I love to train at, and on the whole ride, I live about an hour away from the gym.
Oh
So
wow.
the whole ride up there, I am anxious as crap. Even though everybody loves me and I love everybody there and we work well together, the whole ride up there, I'm anxious as crap. But then once that warm up is over, I'm like, okay, let's go. I
Yeah.
like, what was I so anxious about? So that's a
Yeah.
very smart idea to take your gi and travel and go to these different places and show people what you're capable of because I'm sure just like I do that they're wondering why is he here? What's he gonna do? What is it like?
Yeah. And that's been something that I think has also been helpful for other people to get that awareness because if I've been, to Chattanooga Jiu-Jitsu Academy or Lucas Lapria in Knoxville or any gym I've been to, it's been helpful for them to see that that's out there and that they can, you know, learn, you know, that jiu-jitsu really is for everyone. That, that if they want it bad enough, there's a way out there. There's just a way, we might do it differently, but we do have some strengths. For example, like my left hand is weak, but because of lack of use, but my right hand is really strong. And so
Right.
I can use a lot of that. My brain kind of is, compensated for that weakness. And so, I can react, I think, faster on that right side, and so like that's been something that I've been able to show some people. And then, it hasn't, yeah, you want to win a spar for sure. I don't think anybody just like wants to lose, but there's also been a shift for me to not be so fixated on winning. If winning happens, great, but like just bringing the awareness,
Yep. Yep.
that people can do it.
Yep. I am the exact same way. It's funny because I tell everybody at the gym, like, and everybody that meets me and asks me about how I do it, and I'm like, they're like, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm all arms and heart. That's all I am is arms and heart. Like,
Yeah.
my legs don't work that well, but I promise you, like, you'll know you was in a good role with me."
Hmm.
And like, and that goes back to being in the right community too, because like you said, opening up the awareness for other people also opens up the ability for the coaches. One of my coaches said he loves having me there because it's a challenge for him. How do I teach this to work for Matt? He's like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna make it work for him. I'm gonna figure it out, and I love that about him because he and there are places that won't do that, that aren't that accepting. So it's our job to open up the
Yeah.
awareness for them.
Right. Right. No, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, most time when I roll with someone, I've had people say to me like, you know, when I roll with you, I have to think. Because something we do well at my gym, something we'll do at the seminar we're doing in our gym in May, is if I have a deficient, a limitation in my left hand, then like that person has to put a ball, a tennis ball in their left hand. And so now it's one hand on one hand, it's equal fight. And
that's genius.
and they have to
I
think and they have to think about that. They think about like I've had people drop the ball, I've had people try to replace the ball, and I'm like, can't do that, not in this role. No.
Mhm. I've
Yeah.
had people I've had people not use their legs as much because my legs are so limited. So when I've done a couple grappling matches and my training partners when my training was specifically centered around me and I wasn't in like a class and I was just doing my training on my own and I had my training partners with me, they would specifically not use their legs like me or my opponent would so they could feel it and they'd be like, I don't see how you do this. It's so hard. I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's the point.
It's a lot tougher if you take something away.
For
You know,
sure.
for
For
me,
sure.
like that's been kind of like the norm, you know, and so
Yep.
now, and so like I have like some years ahead of them on that. So like shifting it from just from impaired to adaptive a little bit. Something I've been trying to something that's been giving me purpose in my game is if a friend of mine has like an injured, you know, arm, shoulder, hand, I'll say like, hey, don't quit. Just roll. Let's just roll together. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
only using one hand, one arm. You know, I'm not using them both either.
Right.
We can keep that guy also on the mat and have him thinking.
Right.
Because the good news for him is he'll get his hand back.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's a more dangerous game, and that ties into some of the Gracie philosophy that I know of, where guys would like train, you have a shoulder injury, and they would put their arm in their belt, and
Mm-hmm.
they spar with one hand.
Yep. Yep. I've seen that too. I've there's been times where I've been in the gym and I've had another external injury outside of having cerebral palsy already, and I've been like, all right, well, this is something else I got to deal with. I'll deal with it. I'm just not gonna use that side as often now.
Yeah.
I've seen, like you said, people putting their arm inside their gi to roll just because they want to keep working, and that's the beauty of jujitsu and how it's already adaptive. So like it shouldn't be so scarce to be as open as it is now. But yeah, I 100% agree with you, man. Like you just got it's all about the adaptations in my book
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and the mindset to it.
Well,
So
nothing. That's who you adapt is in the mind.
yep, yep. It's like okay, well, I can't use this right now, so I got to use this, or I know my left side is weaker or my right side is weaker, so I need to move this person to my right or my left, depending on which side is dominant.
Mm.
One one thing with my CP is because I have use of both my hands, but my right side is weaker than my left because I'm left-handed. So, and one thing I've realized lately is a lot of the times when I move in one way, like if I'm moving to my left side, my right side wants to go that way at the same time.
Right.
So one thing I do is I'm trying to open up my hands being independent of each other. Like, yes, my left hand's over here trying to get this Kimura on the wrist, but I have to use my right side to push myself back to create space to go over the shoulder to get that Kimura. Or um yeah, Kimura. So
Yeah.
like I'm that's another adjustment I'm having to make within all the other adjustments I'm having to make. But I mean, opening it up for other people and having them see that gives them even more opportunities to grow as athletes for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just be able to give also as an added value to the sport. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
So you've done a lot of adaptive events, as you said, but you got some of your own coming up, huh? Or some
Yeah.
you're working towards. Let's talk about those. What you got going on? I know I've been sharing about it, but let's tell the people more about it so they can get
Yeah.
involved.
So May 31st, my Professor Khalifa Oliveira, Gracie Ba and Pelham, we've gotten the support there to have an adaptive seminar on May 31st. It's 11:30 a.m. Central to about 1:30 p.m. Right, it's about 2 hours. And we're gonna, come together, talk about the adaptive, movement, if you will, that's for everyone. Show some people some techniques that adapt to every need. So if you have limited sight, hand issues, coordination issues, any limb issue, we're gonna work on that. Guys has spinal issues, and we're gonna, do some things where like you wouldn't stand, you would not be up, you'd be more on like, on your elbows, arms, and work from using body weight. And so we're gonna use a lot of that in May. And we'll also have some representatives from a neighboring town about 2 hours away, named Opelika. It's in the Auburn area.
Hmm.
And in July, there's a card there for a little adaptive event that's put on by a guy named Dallas and his wife. They have a nonprofit called the event's called Rose for Ruthie, and
Hmm.
so that's the event in July. And so they'll also be there in May to let anyone know if they want to come out and see a competition.
Nice.
Not that competition is forced on everyone, but if you do want to get involved and compete or just see if that's like, you're welcome to attend the event in July. So that's going on. Alabama. It's our first, biggest effort in this way. So it's really exciting.
Man, that's a wonderful idea. I don't know how I didn't think of an adaptive seminar. When you came to me with the idea, I was like, that is incredible. That's genius. I'm like, yeah, we definitely need things like that for sure because and you like you said, it should be open to everybody, and this one in
Yeah.
Pelham is that
Right.
way. That way, the non-adaptive people can see like they really can't like so that way it opens up so it's not so shocking to people when they show up to these gyms and
Yeah.
stuff. I love the idea. I wish I could be a part of it, and I might still can. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'll get with you on that if I
Nice.
am.
Nice.
I would love to be there and share knowledge with other adaptive athletes and
Yeah.
different techniques and stuff. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And the
Um,
first time I saw that was this past year. There was the HAP para tournament in Dallas, and I
mhm,
was there for that event. And then the following day, Russ and Hughes and Professor Celery had
mhm,
they put on an adaptive seminar. They're just some of the biggest like names in para were there.
mhm,
Alex Martin's jiu-jitsu gym. Alex Martins is a wonderful professor in Dallas,
mhm,
and he hosted this event, and we spent about 2 hours on the mat just looking at different things and different para techniques and
mhm.
ways to adapt your game to what your body will let you do. And
Right,
so
right,
I got inspired by that and brought that back
for
in my
sure, for sure. You know, that's a the I'm trying to put together an event here in Georgia, which is coming together. So I may want to put in. I may need to pick your brain so I can put together a seminar here in Georgia too. Because there's a seminar. I know. I don't know if you know him, Brian Freeman.
Mhm.
He came down. and did a seminar at Cole Miller's gym
Mm.
here in Warner Robins, Georgia, and
Right.
it was a one. He was teaching even non-adaptives, and they were like, he was teaching them stuff they didn't even know, and it was
Right.
beautiful to see. And then he took extra time with me afterwards, and I'm forever grateful for
Hmm.
that. And then the event in July is a competition. You said?
Yeah, they're gonna have some kids and adults and so they're getting signups now for the event. And there's a pair division, that's gonna be
Heck
going
yeah,
on there as well. So
heck yeah. And
it's
that's in and where's
uh,
that one again?
Opelika.
Okay,
Mm.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to make that one, especially if I can't make the one in May. But I'm definitely gonna try to make that one. Um, I definitely will keep in touch with you for sure, because man, I'm invested. I'm invested in you. I'm invested in the community. I want us to all work together
Yeah, man.
and all get better and grow and spread this adaptive, like you said, movement, if you will,
Yeah.
around the
You
world,
gotta
man.
have
So
ambassadors in every state. That's the thing.
yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
have ambassadors willing to take that torch.
for sure. And I've picked it up and carry it well. I've seen you carry it well. We know Brian carries it well. Um, that's all it takes is everybody working together. One of my
Mhm.
friends likes to say, "Many hands makes light work," and that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Matt. At the end of every episode, I like to do this thing called the SS3 because I don't know if you know, I'm a huge nerd. I'm an anime nerd. So my fight nickname is the Saiyan Soldier. So SS3, Super Saiyan 3. So for this SS3, I wanna know, what are your three dream events to have an adaptive competition at? What three organizations would you like to have to hold adaptive competitions or seminars?
Yeah, I think that IBJJF is a big hope. They've done some great work in that organization to go from you know, all male to then kids and then the female division that's rapidly growing. And I think that, the next spot would be a inclusive division that's about adaptive. They have I know in my curriculum I've done for Gracie Baja coaches, there's a GBX, and that's for,
Mm,
adaptive needs. And so I think that's
nice.
something that's on this my hope. Continue with AJP is a big one. AJP and
Mm,
SJF are ones that keep going. They keep having events. If they could probably have one more frequently, that'd be
mm,
something I wish would happen. And then the Paralympics, that'd be huge. I know they have judo, and there's a movement happening to the
right,
U.S. para jiu-jitsu team. It's captained by Rustin Hughes,
right.
and that's a team that's trying to get that going with and they're working a lot with Professor Accelerate as well from Brazil.
Mm,
But if we can get, they have para judo that
yep.
started in the 80s, I believe, and they have a defined system. So if we can get that moving to para jiu-jitsu, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. That would be my number one. That would be my number one. Would be the Paralympics, because if we can come together and have a para jujitsu team, and for all of us to represent the country, for me as a military kid,
Yeah.
that would be that's one of my ultimates right there. I have my ultimate goals are very limited, but that is one that I'm like, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
That would be my number one. My number two would probably I heard Dana White say that they're gonna invest in jujitsu
Hmm.
over the next year. They're gonna invest a ton of money into it. So some kind of UFC jujitsu event would be probably be my number two.
Yeah.
My number my number three, I would say PGF, because I think PGF is starting. I think they're growing into something very very special. Just off presentation alone, I've seen the bits and pieces of the documentary. Still haven't watched it in full, but I plan to. But that's my number three,
Hmm.
and which both of our answers I think are great because if we can get all of these things to grow and
Hmm.
give us more options, that just means more for more people. All the young kids coming up that are in our position can see that they have options.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it may be something where I'm willing to accept if it's something where I don't get to do it. For example, like in the Para Olympics, it
Hmm.
would be cool to just get the ball rolling.
Right,
So when they can,
right,
um,
right.
that kind of thing, that'd be amazing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm in the same boat. Like I competition for me, I know is not long term. Like I want to help grow it
Mm.
after after competition. Like I'm gonna compete a few more times, but I'm trying to be behind the scenes to help it grow. That's my like number two ultimate
Yeah.
goal
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, my man, it was a great conversation. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on.
Anytime.
Tell the people where they can find you on social
Yeah.
media, where they can learn more about you and all.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. Um, my like adaptive account is the Alabama Adaptive GB.
Okay,
And so that's where I kind of keep all my adaptive efforts and stuff out there.
got you.
I'm also on Facebook as well. So that's about what we do.
Got you,
It's
man.
the best.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Y'all, pay attention to my boy Matt Mckenzie. We'll definitely talk more. It's a lot
Yeah.
going on. I'll definitely talk to you more around 31st and in July.
Yeah,
And
man.
we'll see you soon, brother.
Yes,
Good
sir.
talk.
See you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. See you.